Hello everyone and welcome. This video is the first video in a two-part series. In this video specifically, Gugus and Jaxie Wick, myself, will be explaining to you why SLP is going down. It's a bit of a detailed explanation, but still keeping it high level enough and putting stuff in layman's terms so that everyone can understand the situation. In the next video I'll be posting in a day or two, we will be explaining and going in depth on how this issue can be fixed with some unique and cool ideas. But first, it is important for everyone to understand why is SLP going down? What is the root of the problem? And that is what this video is about. I hope you enjoy it. Cheers. Axie economical status, can it be fixed? Right, let's jump into the problem. So for the viewers out there, some of this might be basic, some of this we'll discuss in more detail, but gents, so we're basically sitting with why is SLP going down right now, right? And the first kind of thing we're looking at is this burn versus mint rate, where the inflation of the token is basically not sustainable because our SLP is being burned less than it's being minted. Jaxie, what does it mean for the SLP to be more minted than burned?
I mean, it's pretty much causing hyperinflation at this point. So basically, I think the daily mints averaging out to like 250 million a day, but we're burning like 50 million a day roughly. So with that extra excess of 200 million, I mean, that's just being added to the circulating supply, and it's pretty much dragging the price down. And it's been dragging the price down pretty much for the last couple months, right? And the biggest issue is if there isn't any adequate burn to mint ratio, I mean, the price is just going to keep tanking, right, over time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the biggest issue right now is the fact that there's only one burning mechanism in the game, but the problem is every time we create new Axies, it's just adding more to the mint, right? So
yeah,
you have to have a very fine balance, otherwise we're just going to lose the price of this utility token pretty fast, which is what we've been seeing the last couple months.
Yeah, I mean, well, to put it in layman's terms, for someone who doesn't really understand the burn mint thing, how I usually think about it is we have apple farmers and they're producing apples and they're taking it to a market to sell those apples. And after a while, people say, oh, okay, but selling apples actually makes good money. And more people start farming and making apples, but there's only so many people buying apples right now. So either you have to bring the price down of your apples or you're not going to sell any apples. And that's basically what's happening with SLP. There's just too many people making apples, not enough people buying apples right now. And that's why the price is basically going down. It's a very layman's terms kind of way to look at it. But which actually brings me to the next point, which is kind of also the main problem that goes hand in hand with this is it's because there's less people buying SLP because less people are breeding. Because we need more new players for the Axie economy to be sustainable. So we need more demand for Axies. And more demand for Axies will create more breeding, will let more SLP be burned. So that is kind of one of the problems we are sitting with. And they both go hand in hand because a good SLP price or a good earning potential will bring more people towards Axie, will bring us more players. That's currently where we're sitting there. I'm just thinking, but with the problem we are having now, and guys, we'll tackle on how our beliefs is to fix this in the next section of this. We're just unpacking the problem first. But another interesting problem we're sitting right now is with the SLP earning distribution in the game currently, right? I saw an interesting statistic that basically 70% of all SLP that is being minted right now comes from adventure and daily quest. Gugu, why is that actually a problem? Or Jaxie, whichever one of you wants to take it. Why is that a problem that most of the SLP is coming from adventure and daily quest?
Is that statistic confirmed by the team, or was that one of those made up? I mean, not made up, like analysis. Yeah.
No, so Max Brand 99.
Because the question I'm asking is reputable enough to take the statistic and just go with it.
Let's see. Let's see.
Max Brand's pretty reputable. He's a community developer.
I mean, the main problem is that most of the SLP is getting created by an unskilled part of the game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, right. Yeah, I see.
Yeah. So 48%
is adventure, right? 48.5%. That's a large number for just the adventure. So we're gonna move on to how we can solve this. But looking at the problem right now, most of the SLP is getting created by an unskilled part of the game where it can be abused by bots. And even though there's a couple of prevention systems, there's always going to be a new bot. They're always going to get better every single day with new systems they can avoid. So it's really hard to get rid of all of them. We had the 800 MMR rule, but that didn't really sort it. I mean, I see the reason why they wouldn't want to cut SLP from Adventure, because then the scholars that are grinding like 120 SLP a day, cutting out 50 from the daily part, that's going to be a big issue for the scholars, right? Because that's like most of the SLP that they are earning.
Yeah, and back in November, there was like 200,000 players left the game, right? They dump all their Axies on the marketplace, and it pretty much caused like the problem we have right now, especially because the supply of Axies on the marketplace is just it's too high. It's like what 6-7% of the supply is like up for sale or something like that, right? And it's just I mean, it's like the Apple situation too has pretty much carried over to the marketplace as well. It's not just SLP now.
Yeah, no, it's even
So
that's number one.
Also de-incentivizes breeding.
So it also de-incentivizes breeding it again. Yeah, so that's problem number one is all these unskilled play the equals bots most of the time. So you get bots that farm it, and also you get what you would call bad Axies that can still generate SLP well. So it also brings less demand for newer Axies or for other Axies because there's not really competitive play aspect to it, so it becomes quite stale. The system is basically being abused and farmed. So that's kind of one of the problems we're having with the SLP earning distribution, coming to the solutions quite soon. The next one is that there's not enough burn mechanics, right? The only burn mechanic right now we have for SLP is breeding. The only way to spend SLP is breeding. The other way, though, is staking SLP. With staking SLP in the pool, I believe it was SLP with WETH, if I'm not mistaken, right? You can stake it, which takes it out of circulation a bit, but the problem with that is that currently, because SLP keeps going down, there's a big element of impermanent loss on that investment. Jaxie, do you mind speaking to us a bit more about this impermanent loss? What does it mean, and why is it happening?
Oh man, we have to break down liquidity pool. I mean, just to put it simply, it's basically when you set up a liquidity pool, you have to have two tokens of equal value, right? So you're gonna have SLP and wrapped ETH, but if more people are basically taking like ETH out of that liquidity pool and just putting in more SLP, it basically makes ETH more scarce and SLP is more abundant, right? And because of that imbalance, like the price starts to come down on SLP, right? So if you guys ever play other crypto games and they have like liquidity pools set up and you suddenly see like the price of the token start to like go down, it's because people are taking the more valuable token out of the pool, and it pretty much like drags the price down. And because the price goes down, because the pool suddenly got smaller, if you want to take your initial like deposit out, you're gonna end up with less, basically, right? And the reason liquidity pools, the only way they incentivize is by having a really high like APY on the fees, right? So you want to collect more fees than you are basically like potentially, you're pretty much losing money no matter like which direction the price moves. So the fees just have to make up for the difference, basically, right? So that's pretty much like how to make it like simple. So right now, there's a lot of people are just taking ETH out of the pool and they're just depositing SLP, right? So because SLP is more abundant, but also SLP has a lower price than ETH, it's just going to drag the whole pool value like down over time, basically. And but yeah, I mean, if just like if you had deposited SLP into the pool at 10 cents, right, and now it's at 2, I mean, you're down like 25%, right? So it's So yes. Unless the RON token you're earning is going to be like higher than, like it has to be like dramatically higher, to the incentive to like stay there, basically.
Are you down 25% on SLP alone, or are you down another 25% on ETH as well, or is it ETH separate? because let's say you staked SLP at 10 cents and ETH at let's say 4.5k. How much are you down collectively?
There's like
25% on SLP and then some on ETH.
Super like, yeah. I mean, since ETH is more like popular, like mainstream, I mean, I think it's probably going to be like, it depends, because the thing is, ETH, recently took a beating, right? So actually, you would end up with less, right? Because ETH has also gone down in price, since the time. If you deposited SLP at 10 cents, like ETH was like what, 4,300 bucks, right? But because ETH is also down now to like 3,600, it would actually be like
more than
probably
25%.
like a greater loss, Yeah. Like you're gonna end up with less because you're pulling it, you're pulling out. In theory, like the way liquidity pool should work is you're putting the two tokens, but because ETH is more like abundant, like as a throughout the ecosystem, like usually for most games it's the other token that gets like hit the hardest, right? But just right now the whole market's bleeding, right? So like I don't know the exact like numbers, but if you started when it was at 10 cents and ETH was at like 4,300 bucks and you're gonna pull it out now, I mean, yeah, like it's gonna hurt,
Bad. Yeah, and I think the biggest problem with sitting with this as well is you can't really see what it's worth keeping the stuff pooled because there's an unknown APY with the RON because we don't know what the value of RON is. So you're saying, okay, it's good, I'm creating RON, I'm making all that RON, but how much is RON worth? Is it $10? Is it $100? Is it $1 million? We don't know. So yeah.
And the issue with impermanent loss as well is that even if you stake all of your SLP right now and the price goes back up to 10 cents, you lose again, right?
Yeah. You lose both ways.
You lose for liquidity farm, yeah. So for liquidity farming, you lose either way, whichever the direction the price moves. That's why the fees have to be like attractive enough for someone to stick around, And yeah, I mean,
or the coin has to be really stable, right?
Exactly, yeah. So that's why the ETH AXS pool or the farm, the reason that's more like the reason they pay out less fees than the ETH like to SLP pool is because because there's more money in the pool staked, right? And because they're giving equal distribution out every day, you're actually earning more off of the SLP than ETH pool because it's more volatile, right? But I mean, at the same time, we don't know what the price of RON is, right? And I think, honestly, for, this is just like my guess on it, most layer 2 like side chains, like if we compare this to Polygon and Matic, I mean, I think for RON token, like I don't think we'll see a market cap of more than like 2 billion, like super generous, So I think when the token comes out, it's going to be closer to like 500 million, probably to like $1 billion range.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, that means RON's only going to be like 50 cents to like $1, like tops, And that's pretty like generous in my opinion. Like I don't, because the thing is, I mean, is RON's, it's like a layer 2 sidechain in a way, kind of like where you can compare it to like Polygon and Immutable, like in terms of gas fees. Like there's not going to be a lot of fees actually being collected on this because the only reason people are like using, like Polygon has like what 1.2, 1.5 million transactions a day, which is pretty similar to RON, right? Ronin, but because the fees are going to be a lot, like the gas fee is going to be a lot smaller in theory. Like I don't really see RON being worth more than like $1, like out the door.
Yeah.
Don't you think there's going to be a lot more transaction once they introduce like the Axie release and Battles V2 and land gameplay? Like there's just a lot more going to be going on in the marketplace and the transactions can just
but because it's like layer 2 in a way, it's supposed to be really cheap, right? Like an example of Polygon before the Sunflower game, like Pegaxi as an example, right? Like one Matic was enough for like 50 transactions, which is like $2, right? So that means like the average transaction I was paying on Matic was like 2 to 4 cents. You know what I mean? So like that's like on a typical day, right? So I mean, if you multiply like the potential fees like by the how much like daily transaction volume we're seeing, like it's not gonna be nowhere close to where Polygon is. And Polygon's at like what 16 billion market cap, right? or I think it's a little bit higher than that. But I don't really see Ron being worth more than like $1 out the door, and that's just my guess on it.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, there's another problem here being AXS has obviously gone down tremendously in the past 2 days as well, right? I mean, in this, I think from what I've seen, I think it's a compound problem, right? One is, I think crypto in general has taken a knock, actually, the past day or two, as far as I've seen. And then secondly, the AXS staking reduced as per the white paper of Sky Mavis, or the white paper of the staking, as far as I understand. The docs did say that this is the date. They're going down from about 120% APR to about 87, and I mean the price is immediate. It jumped from about $95 down to 77.5, which is also not too fun for people holding AXS. I try to do stuff with AXS, right?
The thing is, so you see how it says 87% APR, right? It's actually, so APR and APY are two completely different estimates, but because they don't have an auto compound feature, which is kind of like bad to see. I wish they had an auto compound, like, because you know how you have to like restake it like every 24 hours, but yeah, if you restake it every day, I think this is closer to like, it's just off the top of my head, I think it's closer to like what, 400% or something, or 300, 400%, isn't it, for APY if you restake every day?
Yeah, it should be. I haven't done the math, but yeah, it will definitely be higher than this.
Yeah. So it says 87%, guys, because that's like what they're paying out. But if you were to restake it every day, I would say it's closer to like maybe like 250 to 300, like off the top of my head. Like, I have to like, if you compound it every day for like a whole year. But that's also expected to come down to like 40% roughly, I think, on the white paper, right? That's what they said, like over time.
Yeah.
Because like Delphi Digital had their like release schedule with it or something, so they're estimating APR to be at like 40%, which is still actually not that bad, because if you restake it every day, I mean, it should be at least like 100% APY, probably somewhere around there.
Which is not bad, but I mean, in the crypto world and the kind of people who are here and who are trying to make money 100%. I mean, 100% anywhere is really good. But a lot of people are looking at, they want that, what is it, the 10Xs, that's what they're chasing, basically.